You earn more now, a lot more than you used to. But every time you pay for something non-essential, a part of you still reacts like you're doing something dangerous. It's not a thought, it's a feeling. A tightness in the chest when the card machine beeps. A quick mental calculation that happens automatically, subtracting the cost from an imaginary, much smaller number that lives in the back of your mind. The number from 5, 8, 10 years ago. The promotion came through. The business finally took off. The new salary hit your account. For a moment, there was air, a sense of space. You looked at the balance, and for the first time, the math worked. The bills were covered. There was something left over. The constant, low-grade alarm that used to hum in your body every single day. It quieted down. You thought it was over. But then Saturday comes. You're out, you see a nice shirt, or you think about getting the better cut of meat at the grocery store. Or you consider a weekend trip, just a short one. And the alarm comes back. Not as loud, but just as familiar. It whispers, "Is this wise? Do you really need this? What if this is the month something breaks?" You check your bank app. Again. You see the number, the healthy, grown-up number. Your logical mind knows it's fine. But the feeling doesn't come from your logical mind. It comes from a much older place. This is the psychology of earning more, but living as if everything could still run out. And if you've ever closed a browser tab with a full cart, or talked yourself out of a simple pleasure, or felt a pang of guilt after a modest treat, you might already know this territory. It's not about the money in your account today. It's about the memory in your nervous system. I'd be curious to know if this feeling is familiar to you. If it is, maybe let me know in a comment below. For now, let's stay with this. Let's take a real example. Imagine someone. Let's call him David. David is 38. He runs a small, successful design studio. His income is 4 times what it was when he was 29, scrambling for freelance gigs, paying rent with a knot in his stomach on the first of every month. That version of David ate cheap noodles, postponed dentist visits, and knew the exact dollar amount left in his account at any given moment. Today, David's life looks different on paper. But on a random Tuesday, you'll find him doing something peculiar. He'll be in a meeting, his mind drifting for a second, and his thumb will move on its own, unlocking his phone, tapping the banking app. He'll stare at the balance for 3 seconds. He'll see the same number he saw at breakfast. Nothing has changed. He puts the phone away. 10 minutes later, a quiet thought about an upcoming insurance payment will surface. His thumb moves again. App. Balance. Close. It's a tick. A ritual. A check-in with a world he fears might have disappeared while he wasn't looking. He doesn't do this because he's irresponsible. He does it because for years, the number could disappear. A client could vanish. An invoice could bounce.
Stability was a myth. His mind learned that safety is not a state you arrive at. It's a condition you must constantly verify. So now, even when the verification always comes back positive, the circuit still runs. The muscle still flexes.
He earns more, but he lives on a constant, gentle patrol. Or consider Anna. Anna got a significant raise 6 months ago. She decided rationally that she could now afford to move from her cramped, noisy apartment to a nicer one. She found a place. It was perfect. Brighter, quieter, with a view of some trees. She did the math. She could do it. The day she was supposed to sign the lease, she woke up with a dry mouth and a racing heart. A voice in her head, clear and cold, said, "This is how it starts. You get comfortable. You increase your fixed costs. And then, when the downturn comes, you'll be trapped. You'll have farther to fall." She heard the voice, and she believed it. She called the landlord and declined. She stayed in the old apartment. The raise sits in her savings, a monument to a fear she can't seem to spend. What's happening here? It's not stinginess. It's not an inability to enjoy life. It's the body and mind operating from an old manual. The manual written during seasons of scarcity. That manual had one primary rule. Vigilance is survival. Relaxation is a precursor to disaster. Every non-essential expense was a potential leak in a very fragile boat. When your income grows, you get a new boat, a bigger, sturdier one. But your mind is still the captain trained on that old, leaking vessel. It still watches the horizon for storms it knows can sink you. It still orders everyone to bail water, even though the new boat has a bilge pump. It's still rationing supplies, even though the hold is full. The captain isn't crazy, the captain is experienced. The captain remembers what it felt like to take on water. So you see the person who drives the older car, not because they can't afford a new one, but because the idea of a car payment, a new fixed obligation, feels like a trap. You see the person who orders the cheaper meal even when they're treating themselves, because the price difference, however small, triggers an ancient alert. Waste. You see the person who has achieved a goal, saved the target amount, and instead of feeling peace, they feel a new kind of tension. The tension of having something they are now responsible for not losing. The money arrives in the present, but the emotional system processing that money is often lagging behind, living in the past. It confuses security with deprivation, because for so long, deprivation was the only security it knew. Saving everything was the only way to feel safe. Spending, even reasonably, felt like disarming yourself. This creates a silent friction. You are living in two time zones at once. Your present reality says one thing, your historical memory insists on another. And because fear is a stronger signal than logic, the memory often wins. You end up with a life that has improved, but a psyche that hasn't been given the update. The external circumstances have upgraded. The internal operating system is still running the old survival mode software. It's waiting for the scarcity to return. And so, in a way, by never letting your guard down, you keep it alive. You become the one maintaining the very state you're afraid of, long after the real danger has passed. So where does this voice come from? This quiet, persistent authority that vetoes comfort and questions every step towards ease. It doesn't live in your rational mind. You can't argue with it using a spreadsheet. It lives deeper, in the body, in the nervous system. It's a record, etched not in thoughts, but in sensations. Think of a time you were truly financially insecure. Maybe it was after a job loss. Maybe it was during college, or in those first unstable years of a career. Maybe it was in childhood, watching the adults around you stretch a thin paycheck. It wasn't just an idea, it was a physical experience. The pit in your stomach when a bill arrived, the shallow breath you took when checking your balance at an ATM, the heat in your face when you had to say, "I can't afford it," the weight of a problem that had no clear solution, sitting on your chest as you tried to sleep. Your body learned the map of that terrain. The landmarks were anxiety, hyper-vigilance, and a constant low-grade calculation of risk. That experience wasn't just a chapter you read and closed, it was a training program. Your nervous system was trained under those conditions. It learned that the world is a place where resources are scarce and threats to your stability are constant and invisible. It learned that safety requires relentless scanning for danger. It learned that pleasure, or even basic comfort, must be deferred until some mythical someday when everything is finally secure. Then, your income changes. The external conditions shift. But the nervous system doesn't get a memo. It doesn't automatically upgrade because a new direct deposit hits. It operates on pattern recognition, and the old patterns, the feeling of scarcity, the anticipation of loss, are deeply familiar. They are its default setting. So when you now encounter a trigger, a larger purchase, a lifestyle upgrade, your body doesn't consult your current bank statement. It replays the old tape, it reactivates the old circuitry. The heart rate increases slightly, the muscles tense, the mind narrows its focus to threat detection. This is the feeling you interpret as guilt, or anxiety, or a bad feeling about spending. This is why willpower and positive thinking often fail here. You can tell yourself, "I deserve this," or "I can afford this," 100 times. But if your body is broadcasting a signal of danger, the older, more primal signal will win. The body's message is simple. This action once led to vulnerability. Do not proceed. Let's go back to David from the design studio. When he was 29 and a client payment was late, it wasn't an inconvenience. It was a crisis. It meant choosing between groceries and the electricity bill. It meant sleepless nights, his mind racing through worst-case scenarios. His body was flooded with stress hormones for days on end. That state, that specific biochemical and emotional signature, became linked with the idea of financial uncertainty. Now, at 38, even the thought of financial uncertainty, like a slow month in the studio, can trigger a milder version of that same full-body response. His body remembers the crisis, so it tries to preempt it. His constant checking of the bank account isn't about information. It's about reassurance. It's a compulsive attempt to soothe a nervous system that is waiting for the other shoe to drop. He's trying to prove to his own body that the danger isn't here. But the very act of checking reinforces the idea that danger is something you need to watch for. Anna, who turned down the new apartment, is in a similar trap. For her, the trigger is increased fixed costs. In her past, a higher rent, a car loan, any new monthly obligation was a chain. It reduced flexibility. It meant being locked into a job she hated because she couldn't afford a gap in income. The feeling of being trapped was, for her, a profound threat. So when she contemplates the nicer apartment, her body doesn't feel excitement. It re-experiences the claustrophobia, the panic of having no exit. Her logical mind sees a beautiful space. Her embodied memory sees a cage. This is the core of the issue. The person who earns more but lives in lack is often being loyal to an old version of themselves. They are protecting a past self that really did need that level of caution. They are following the rules that kept that past self afloat. To break those rules feels like a betrayal of that survivor. It feels reckless. It feels like forgetting the lessons that pain taught you. So you have the person who, even on vacation, can't fully relax until they've checked their email, just in case. The person who hoards information, skills, and connections, not for joy, but as a stockpile against future famine. The person who achieves a goal and immediately sets a harder one, because stopping feels like inviting disaster. The goalpost keeps moving not out of ambition, but out of a need to stay ahead of a phantom pursuer. The mind that operates from scarcity is a brilliant strategist for survival. It is focused, resourceful, and excellent at predicting worst-case scenarios. But it is a terrible strategist for peace. It cannot compute safety. It can only compute the absence of immediate threat. And since a threat can always be imagined, it never truly stands down. It turns prudence into rigidity. It turns planning into paralysis. It turns a healthy emergency fund into an emotional prison where you are both the warden and the inmate. You are living with a ghost, the ghost of past insecurity. And it haunts not your bank account, but your choices, your moments of potential joy, your ability to breathe freely in the life you've built. The tragedy is subtle. You have overcome the circumstance, but you have not yet retired the protector that circumstance created. That protector, once essential, now stands guard over an empty room, mistaking every echo for an intruder, and every opportunity for ease as a potential ambush. So, if this is a problem of the body remembering what the mind has logically outgrown, what can be done? How do you convince your nervous system that the war is over, that the patrols can stand down? It doesn't happen by force. You can't shout your way out of this. It happens through a slower, gentler process of retraining, of showing your system, in small, undeniable ways, that the old rules no longer apply. It begins with recognition, simply seeing the mechanism for what it is. Not a character flaw, not ingratitude, but a historical echo. When you feel that familiar clutch of anxiety, as you consider a reasonable expense, you can pause and name it. You can say, internally, this is the old software. This is my system remembering a time when this feeling was necessary. This simple act of separation is powerful. It creates a sliver of space between the feeling and the reaction. You are no longer the feeling, you are the person observing the feeling. And the person observing can make a different choice. The next step is not a grand, reckless leap into spending. That would only terrify the system and confirm its worst fears. The process is about introducing safety, not shock. It's about making tiny updates to the internal manual. You do this through deliberate, small experiments in trust. Think of it as physical therapy for your relationship with abundance. You start with movements that are barely outside your current range of comfort. For David, the man who checks his account constantly, the experiment might be this. For one day, he will not open the banking app. He will notice the urge. He will feel the anxiety rise, but he will not act on it. He will let the feeling be there, and he will breathe through it. He will prove to his body, through experience, that the world did not collapse because he didn't verify his safety for 24 hours. The first time, it will be hard. The 10th time, it will be easier. He is building a new muscle, the muscle of trust in stability. For Anna, who fears fixed costs, the experiment might be different. It wouldn't be signing a lease for a new apartment. It would be something much smaller, subscribing to a streaming service she's been putting off for months. Or committing to a weekly yoga class, a small, fixed, non-essential monthly expense. The goal is not the service or the class itself. The goal is to experience, month after month, that this small obligation does not sink her, that life continues and even improves with this small anchor of pleasure in it. She is collecting evidence against the old rule. This is the crucial shift, moving from proving you can survive to proving you can live. Survival is about endurance, restriction, and anticipating loss. Living is about presence, choice, and the capacity to receive. Your old manual was a survival guide. You need to write a new one, a living guide, and you write it one sentence at a time through action. It might look like this. You walk into a grocery store and you buy the nicer coffee, the one you actually like, instead of the cheapest one. You do not do it impulsively. You do it consciously. You feel the tension. You acknowledge it, and you place the bag in your cart anyway. You are saying to your system, "See, we did this. The sky did not fall. We have enough." Or, you take a Saturday afternoon and you do nothing productive. You sit, you read a novel. You feel the guilt of wasting time. You let the guilt sit there, and you keep reading. You are proving that your worth is not tied to constant productivity, which is another form of scarcity thinking. The goal is not to become irresponsible. Prudence is wise. The goal is to dissolve the rigidity, to turn prudent saving from a prison into a choice. It's the difference between, I cannot spend this and I am choosing not to spend this right now because I have other plans for my resources. One comes from fear, the other comes from agency. This process is slow. It is not linear. Some days the old voice will be loud. You will revert to old habits. That's okay. It's not a failure. It's data. It shows you where the old wounds are. Be curious about those moments, not critical. Over time, as you collect these small experiences of safe expansion, something begins to change. The nervous system starts to learn a new pattern. It starts to associate the feeling of spending or relaxing or enjoying, not with impending doom, but with nothing bad happening, with neutrality or even with mild pleasure. The alarm bell's wiring begins to rust. It still might ring sometimes, but it's quieter. You can hear other things over it. The sound of your own breath, the quiet satisfaction of a choice made freely. You begin to differentiate between intuition and trauma. Intuitively knowing a purchase is unwise feels clear and calm. Trauma reacting to any purchase feels panicked and familiar. You learn to listen to the first and comfort the second. The life you've built with your increased earnings is not just a financial structure, it is meant to be a container for peace. But peace cannot live in a mind that is always at war. By slowly, patiently updating the manual, by showing your deepest self that scarcity is no longer the boss, you allow peace to move in. You allow yourself to inhabit your own life, not just manage it from a place of fear. You start to earn more and live like it, not with extravagance, but with a quiet, steady sense of enough. You check the account less. You breathe more deeply. You see a nice shirt and you think, I could have that. And the thought is followed not by a wave of dread, but by a simple question. Do I want it? The question of desire replaces the reflex of fear. That is the real upgrade. That is when the money you earn stops being just a number you defend and starts becoming a tool for crafting a life that feels, finally, like your own. If these reflections found a place with you, and you'd like to explore more of this kind of understanding, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps a lot. And if you tap that little bell, you won't miss what comes next. The path from surviving to living is a long one, but it's walked one conscious, gentle step at a time. You've already done the hardest part. You've built the foundation. Now, the work is to believe you're allowed to live in the house.